Happy Thursday. I woke up with a cold today, as well as already planning to work from home because of my period. Wanted to also say it's been about 4 months of me filming my daily life, and I hope you guys have enjoyed. I hope there's parts where you think to yourself, oh, I do that as well, I can relate, and other parts where you're like, oh, I don't have that aspect of my life like hers. But I really like the internet and watching other people's vlogs to basically learn about how other people live. I just think it's fascinating because everyone has different stories and backgrounds. Something that I genuinely enjoy doing, even if I'm not that great at it. Like, if I had to give myself a rating on how good I am at makeup, I would say I'm literally a 4.5 out of 10. Like, I really don't think I'm good at all. And especially after about a decade of trying to do a full face, I still haven't even improved by that much. And there's actually some purple, which makes this whole look a lot bolder. Having a monolid is hard. I still haven't learned how to actually do makeup for my eye shape. Currently been using Deo as my scent because I sometimes use Deo, I sometimes use perfume. I don't always stick to one. It's just whatever I have literally at home or from my mum or gifts from friends, even conferences. K18 hair mask, which I'm pretty sure I bought before even knowing it was popular. I think if you get the full version and maybe not from Shein, it's probably more expensive and now priced up. But what I do is I put a pump into my hand and I just go through from about 3/4 of the way up my hair, and it makes it soft. My hair looks a bit fuller and a bit more thick, which sometimes is all right, but it just depends on the day. It's very unpredictable. Not perfect, but I tried my best considering my hair is wetter than it should be when you use the tool. So this is my look for errands tonight, mainly focusing on Hingus's bridal shower food and drink.
Feels like I'm working more than just doing. Thank you, Amber.
So demotivated today. I literally don't feel like tidying the house at all. I procrastinated by making a wedding resume post on my events account, and now I'm trying to find the motivation again to restart the clean. I got so distracted that I actually forgot about my laundry. So I'm gonna actually pick up the next lot first so I don't have to do more trips back and forth. Never mind, I am 8 minutes early, so instead I'm gonna set up the racks. Sometimes when I'm partway through housework, I get so distracted and demotivated that I literally just don't return to that specific task till like a few hours have passed. Pajamas from Hingus's hens, and mine have Dachshunds, my favorite dog breed, on them, and we're going to also wear them to get ready on her wedding morning. It's official, I've been feeling a lot worse today, mentally and physically. Happy Tuesday. I am feeling more productive today. I'm up to admin, but because a lot of my reminders of what I need to do are on my phone and my phone's about to die, I'm actually just gonna let it charge for a bit.
I finally finished this very famous memoir, Crying in H Mart. So since I'm Aussie, I'm going to explain H Mart is like our Tongli, basically just an Asian supermarket. And the reason why she cries when she visits is because it reminds her of her mum who passed away from cancer. And I think if I'm following the timeline of the book correctly, I think she might have passed away about 14 years ago when she was actually my age. So I have never witnessed someone actually close up passing away from cancer. I found it really sad and obviously confronting at times because she was basically one of her mum's caretakers and obviously was very raw and honest about the emotion she felt throughout the process. And it's just a lot for someone to have to handle, just all of the setbacks and the different relatives who also tried to help them out and how she felt about them. And yeah, it was really, really interesting. I have actually never heard of the band that the author, Michelle Zorna, is currently in. She is in a band called Japanese Breakfast, which I just looked at their Instagram of, and I didn't know that they were famous. They have 500,000 followers, so I'm assuming they're sort of like a rock indie band, like kind of like alternative pop, I'm assuming. Like, I've never heard any of her songs, but I will check them out. And I actually didn't know going into this that it was a memoir. It's nonfiction. She writes really nicely, and it's actually considered what, I didn't know this category existed, but it's considered to be a food memoir, which basically means that she goes into detail about the food she cooks or the foods her mum cooked, and basically just like whatever she's eaten when she travels or when it's relevant to the story. Like, they went to certain places in Korea since she's half Korean and her mum was Korean. So it's really interesting to me that you can, I guess, convey so many messages, especially about family and culture, through describing the foods in such detail. Because you would think to yourself, looking back on someone's life, okay, what real input does the food that they eat actually have, unless it's some memoir about like obesity or anorexia, like something that's directly weight and food related. But like in this case, I've never read a food memoir. Like, I've never read so many descriptions about food, which, to be honest, as someone who's kind of not a foodie, I did skim through. I do have to say, I feel like she put a lot of effort into the food descriptions, which I kind of skimmed through. I'm also not a huge fan of traditional Korean food, don't shoot me, but I am a big K-barbecue person, which is obviously like not the actual traditional bowls themselves. It's just like meat. I love just like meat with the sauce. That is like my favorite Korean type of food. Really compelling. It was sweet. It was very real because it genuinely is a real story, and I just wish her the best, especially with her husband Peter, who she basically had a really quick wedding with before her mum passed away, and she basically forced him to like marry him on the phone, which I thought was so funny, and I'm so glad they're actually still together. Like, I just love that for them. I would overall rate this book an 8 out of 10. I would recommend it, and it is literally a bestseller for a reason. It was only actually published 5 years ago, actually during the COVID period. So really, really new memoir, very fresh in that sense. And yeah, I just like didn't really know what to expect. I knew it would have a lot of Asian culture and background, but like growing up in a Western country kind of discussion. And that was all I knew. I thought it was fiction going into it. I had no idea it was by a woman who is still alive and still in her band to this day. I've been feeling a little depressed this week. Don't really know why. Yesterday I was demotivated, and then last night I experienced some what feels like regression with my health issues, and that was very physically and emotionally painful. So I today managed to get through my routine, but it still feels like life is a bit depressing. I also haven't even dressed up yesterday or today, even though I've gone outside. So I don't feel like doing my makeup. I don't feel like doing my hair. I literally just haven't been feeling motivated for life. To come over and
Someone else.
my husband. Just kidding. It's called The Husbands. I just spent the last 19 hours reading it, not including when I slept and worked or didn't read it, but Very good book. Yes, I can read that much in less than 19 hours. Really good. I would rate it an 8.5 or so. I do have to say, I understand why she made the ending more on the underwhelming side, but I still kind of wanted some kind of like big dramatic ending because that's just me. But basically, it's about a woman who finds out that her attic is magical because she comes home one day from her best friend's hen's party, and then she just sees a husband in her apartment and she's like, I'm single, like what is going on? And basically she discovers that every time the husband goes up into the attic, he gets swapped for another husband from basically one of her alternate futures, and it's almost like a multiverse but just for herself. So every time the husband changes, her life does as well. And for the most part, the people in her life are still quite consistent and constant, but time keeps moving as it normally does, and there are some things she realizes that she can just never change. And she always thinks to herself, okay, now that I have this power to keep swapping my husband, when they have even the tiniest annoying habit, I'm going to keep swapping them. And it just gets to some dramatic bits, some funny bits, some sweet bits. And yeah, it's really interesting because you want to know if she ends up choosing a husband by the end of the book. And the whole book basically spans a year of her doing this and being like, oh, I'm sick of this guy, go back up to the attic, I left something there. And then they get swapped and they come back down as the new person. And it's really interesting because in her real life, she has broken up with her most long-term ex for the last like 4 years. And in many of her alternate universes, they have actually ended up together, happy or a bad match. But yeah, really interesting. Like, she learned so much about different people and living with them and what she wants in someone, and it kind of just begs the question of like, can you ever be with someone who is literally curated for you and who you just match with and get along really well, or is it just going to be someone who is flawed and you just accept them anyway? So I feel like, yeah, really fast-paced read, very grippy and very unique. She never finds out why the attic is magical, by the way. Like, it's not fantasy, it's just like that is the crux of the book and why the book even occurs in the first place. So yeah, really interesting. I would recommend if you're looking for kind of a laid back but still fast paced story that will really draw you in, because clearly I read it in not that long at all. Like, I feel like if I added up the amount of hours I was reading it, it's probably about 4.5 or so. So I finished it really fast, but I'm also a fast reader. But yeah, I think it's very funny. Look at her with the ladder leading up to the attic. I made a lychee mocktail, rosemary elderflower cordial, lychees, lychee syrup, and lemonade. Do you like that? I like making drinks. Well, at least more than food.
Yeah, of course. I like drinks.
And of course, Bill made his amazing pasta. I told him I missed his Italian food, so he's been making Italian for us.
I'm just eating egg whites to get my protein up.
I've been reading so fast. I actually do log my reviews onto Storygraph, an app that I use, but I also wanted to actually verbally say what I think about a book. So I finished off One Italian Summer. Literally took me a total of like maybe 3.5 hours today. So it is by Rebecca Searle, who is apparently a best-selling author already, but I just haven't explored newer books for a long time. So again, like the last book, it was published quite recently, 2022, so 4 years ago. Basically, she has a mum who has passed away from cancer, but she feels like her life was extremely intertwined with hers, as in she literally thinks that her mum was her soulmate instead of her husband. And so she basically was meant to go to Italy with her mum because her mum would always talk about how she went when she was younger. And then because she's now passed away, she decides to still go on a solo holiday there herself. And she basically doesn't even know if she really wants to be with her husband, who she's been with since uni. And she's just kind of lost because she feels like she's really lost her actual love of her life, even though it's her mum, not like a romantic one. And so she goes. And what she doesn't realize is that she's somehow been transported back in time, which is not actually explained. Again, like the last book, it's not a fantasy. It's literally just like, that's what makes up the story. And so she ends up befriending her mum at the time that her mum was there when she was her age, which is 30. So she basically doesn't actually realize until later, but she is there in the 90s. And then somehow time actually switches back to 30 years afterwards, and her husband comes from real life and meets her for like her last day, and they extend the holiday. And it's just really interesting. She does find out one kind of more shocking thing about her mum, which I think helps her to also let go of her mum while still loving and missing her. They have the everyday mundane kind of themes, and then they have some sort of weird magical element that doesn't actually have an explanation because it's not fantasy, it's just something that pushes the story along. So in this case, it's obviously the fact that she randomly got transported back to the time when her mum was in Italy as well. So really random, but like it works. And I think I might actually say I somewhat preferred this over the husbands. Maybe I'll have a think about it when I actually do my review, but I feel like it was fast-paced enough, it was interesting, had romance, friendship, love, grief, all into one, and yeah, I would actually recommend. And also had really good descriptions of Positano in Italy, which me and Bill actually plan to visit, at least like the Amalfi in general, if not Positano itself. So we are really keen to be going there, and she was describing the food and the culture and just the people. And I was actually thinking quite early on in the book, like, why doesn't she take her phone out in front of her mum, or like why it's in the technology? And then obviously I realized that she was the one transported back, whereas I thought that her mum was the one who was planted in her world and in her time at first. And then she realizes that like she's the one who's back in the past. And it's cute because like once she is back in the future with her husband, she notices that one of the hotel staff members is the same one that she knew from the past, but just like aged now. And the hotel staff member's like, oh, I thought you seemed familiar, like what's going on? And so yeah, it gives me a bit of goosebumps when you get that little bits of time travel element as well. So I was always a huge time travel gal when I used to read a lot more when I was younger, so I feel like this really encapsulated that old theme of mine that I really liked as well. Hello.
Hey, you're turning yourself.
I was reviewing
Oh, my hair.
I was reviewing the book, which is again an everyday book with an element of fantasy, because I always just like that kind of stuff.
Cool. Guys, have a look. It's just started, but got to give it a few hours. Let the gluten settle, and they'll be ready to fold. Anyways.
Do you want to be a YouTuber?
Not really. I don't know what I'm doing, but it's fun just talking to myself.
I like how you're not shy though. I like how Bill has never been camera shy and like is willing to participate in my Instagram stuff, even though you're not a social media person.
I'm only not camera shy because I'm expecting you to delete this later.
No!
Alright, back to you.
It's Friday and all I've been doing is reading when I should really be finishing my tidying and moving on with the routine. But you guys know me with my routine. I have a love-hate relationship with it where I find it hard to push through and finish it. At the same time, I feel really unproductive at the end of the day if I don't do it at all. So I just am constantly in a mini battle with myself whenever I work from home. Anyway, I do have to prep my food for tomorrow's bridal shower. It's roses this time. And I also just have to make sure that I have packed everything, because I'll actually have to leave my home by 8 tomorrow, which is actually quite early, just because it's going to take me 2 hours to get to the meetup spot and then another hour to actually get to the real location, which we're traveling to altogether by ferry. So hopefully tomorrow just goes smoothly and just wraps up nicely, and I can get home safely as well, because Bill will have the car since he's going to Ben's Bucks, who is Hingus's fiance. So all the wedding events are obviously happening at the same time. My Cursed Vagina, very funny memoir, actually written in almost a fictional way, because you just can't believe she's gone through so many weird things in her life, but she just has. So I've been reading this and also swapping between it and Instagram every few minutes. And I think it's time to be productive very soon, at least get onto my devotionals if I'm not going to stack the dishwasher. I just finished yet another book, literally the one I just mentioned. So it's 3:40 p.m. on the Friday, and I started this book last night, maybe right before sleeping. So it's a memoir. It's super funny, very intimate. Like, I feel like I know too much about her life, but she's a very profound and honest person. And I feel like she almost doesn't even have a filter in some circumstances. Like, she genuinely just like pours out her soul to whoever, which I admire because I'm definitely myself more on the open than not open side. So I do like it when people are just very open. It basically ends with where her life is now, because this was actually published this year. She is currently mid-40s and has survived like a stage 1 cancer. She's a mum after having miscarriages, and yeah, she just had a crazy life. Like, it actually starts from when she's already in her 30s, so it actually skips over her 20s. Talks about what she's been like becoming a mum later in life and kind of settling down later in life. And yeah, it's really interesting because I'm obviously the opposite. Like, I got married at 24 and I would love to have kids by 30. So it's very different, but still gives hope because she was someone who was able to have a kid finally at like 40. And that's always been really scary to me as someone who has infertility in my family. Like, I've always wanted to start earlier. So I feel like it gives a little bit of hope, even though she still had to go through the pain of miscarriage. But yeah, really, really good book, actually. Hilarious title. Honestly, if I had noticed the third eye symbol, I probably wouldn't have borrowed it from the library, only because like I'm anti-spiritual in that sense, being a Christian. But it was still a very good book and just a funny memoir. It's just funny how some people can have really different lives to you. And I feel like this was an insight into someone's life that I would probably never live. Like, the only parts that I would not be immune to is probably her miscarriages because of what my family has had running out uteruses. Besides that, I feel like I will likely never be able to relate to like 96% of this book. So I feel like it was a really interesting memoir to dive into.
Mine is in the down technically because it's got an egg.
Oh, you added an egg to yours. Wow. This is my favorite salad, Greek. We were actually just about to start settling down to sleep, but then Bill realized he needs to re-prep his food for tomorrow. I'm on to the last one, which is the couples retreat, and it's based in Kangaroo Island, which I think is off Adelaide in Australia, the south. So I actually, fun fact, lived in Adelaide for about a year when I was a toddler. And I only have one memory from it, and we only have one family we still kind of keep in touch with from there. Anyway, it's going to sort of be like a crime. So far, it has been set up to be semi-crime, semi-friendship, semi-romance. So it's going to be a whole lot of little elements together. And to be honest, I'm not looking forward to also being home alone tomorrow when I get back, because my event is the daytime and Bill's is the nighttime. So I really don't like being home alone. I also have a 2-hour commute both there and back, so a total of 4 hours on public transport tomorrow. And also I'm going to try and pick up my reserved books from the library because I got my notification saying they're ready, but I don't know if they're very strict about the pick up by Monday rule.